Ricardo Torres, Editor-in-Chief of GameSpot, and I am here with 4 awesome dudes that are going to talk to you about the darkness and tell you all about the different things that are going on around the darkness, including the game, and maybe some surprises. So right here, I have Mr. Matt Hawkins.
Yay.
Golf President of Top Cow, and next to him, I have Mr. Mark Silvestri.
Woo! Creator of the Darkness, founder of Top Cow, co-founder of Image Comics, et cetera, et cetera.
Tall guy.
He draws good.
Tall guy.
And next to him, we have Mr. Sheldon Carter, who's project director. No, you should clap. He's helping make the game good. And at the very end, last but not least, we have Mr. Mike Patton.
Hey, how's it going?
Also very key to making the game good. It's true. Don't look that way.
Absolutely.
All right, so first things first, the darkness. Clearly you guys are here so you know about it, but it has kind of an interesting backstory because it's a feel-good comic, isn't it?
It's for the kids. We do everything for the kids.
Yeah, we do all our books for children.
Ooh, that's
cool.
cool.
our motif.
That is cool. All right, here's the for the best questions. The little Darkling sculpture.
See, it is for the kids.
Yeah, and he is wearing a dead cat.
And it's the Darkling character from the game.
Yeah. He's actually and he actually looks just like him. So that's cool.
I think that was the point, dude.
Oh, do we get one of these?
Yeah, we have several.
Oh, cool. Nice.
You can put them on eBay later. It's cool.
That's fantastic. That's cool. Yeah, I like that.
So think of 5 lucky fans. You think of a good question, you get one of those.
Yeah. And they're like, how much are they going for on eBay already?
Well, they're not for. These are not for
yet.
sale. They're purely promotional. So you either get one, and I don't actually. How do they get them normally? It's through EB. Oh, it's through 2K's website and stuff. So go to 2K's website. Which, do you know what the address is for that?
2kgames.com.
2kgames.com. Look under the darkness, and there will be the information on there as to how to get it.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
Or a really good question.
There you go. You have 2 options.
Think of good questions.
One is easier. You can leave with it. All right. So
I
first
think we're
things
doing
first.
questions at the end.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go to you first, though, because you're remember him.
He's ready.
He's ready, right there.
Okay, I got you.
Here you go.
All right. So first thing, you two, tell us about how the feel-good comic of the decade kind of got made.
How the comic got made?
Yeah. Tell us about the Origins of the Darkness.
Oddly enough, is this on? Can you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay. Oddly enough, people think that the Darkness came after Witchblade, but it's actually reverse. We premiered the Darkness, and we launched the Darkness out of Witchblade, but I actually came up with the idea of the Darkness originally in '93, I think it was. Yeah, '93, somewhere around there. I was sitting with David Wohl, who was editor-in-chief at the time at Top Cow. We were down here in San Diego. And we were just throwing some concepts around. I threw this concept of the darkness, like its basic framework, and we both kind of dug it. We thought, let's do something with this, and we kind of put it aside until it was ready. And then, Witchblade took all of our attention. And when Witchblade blew up, we thought, wow, okay, we're not stupid. Let's launch the darkness out of Witchblade. Plus they're both supernatural based. They plugged into each other really well, and then we got Garth Ennis on board early on in his career, and it's like, we'd seen his work, and it was just freaking amazing. And those first issues that he wrote are still some of my favorite, along with the Paul Jenkins issues. And fortunately, Paul wrote the games.
Yeah, we're really lucky we have Paul. He was the writer on the first games, and he's written some amazing comic books. He managed to come back, and he wrote the story for Darkness 2, so it's been pretty awesome for the game to have the same writer, the guy who kind of knows and loves the franchise, being a part of it. Sorry, didn't mean to.
From my early remembrance of all this stuff is we made a conscious choice to go with sort of supernatural reality-based characters in lieu of more spandex shit, because Marvel and DC sort of own that space, and there's really no more point in doing another X-Men or Superman knockoff because there's 9 frickin' billion of those. So, and I remember Mark was the one that made the conversation is we need to do something different. Let's do something where we have guys that, when they walk down the street, you don't know who they are. And not that it's Clark Kent, it's just a guy like Jackie Estacado is a normal looking guy. And Sarah Pazzini is a cop. She walks down the street. So most of our characters are like that, unless, the Magdalena is a little more obvious. But
and Jackie literally is, when it was in my head, the exact opposite of Superman. I didn't. Superman. No offense, I know somebody's doing Superman somewhere, but the guy bored the hell out of me. You know, it's like I found Clark Kent more interesting, you know, than Superman. But and I wanted someone who didn't have the advantages of Superman. Yeah, he's an orphan, you know, super dude. You know, yeah, there's no more of his people, but Jesus Christ, man, the guy lands on Earth, fucking green planet, with a yellow sun, wow, and the world's greatest foster parents.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and then you're Superman. You know, it's like, okay, where do you go from there? But Jackie's direct opposite. I mean, he had nothing, and nothing but betrayal in his life, ultimate betrayals, including betrayal to himself when he lost, spoiler alert, the one thing that mattered to him in the first game, which was Jenny.
Now, as far as when you were working on the comic, did you know it was did it feel like you guys were making something big, or did you just feel really good about the material and were surprised by the response it got?
Well, like Matt said, from early on, we knew we didn't want to do guys with their underwear on the outside, and because that was being done really well already. And I had done that for years when I was a freelancer, but I grew up on like horror and sci-fi and fantasy stuff. That's what I grew up on. I didn't really grow up on superheroes. You know, did something was about to fall on me.
It's just lightning. There's a building. It's cool.
Yeah, a bolt of lightning. But I grew up on that other kind of stuff, and I wanted to incorporate elements of horror and supernatural into our universe, which is why Witchblade. It has nothing to do with the fact that she's barely wearing a costume. Nothing to do with that at all. But it's all supernatural stuff. So. Really, we thought we were kind of hitting something already with Witchblade, that niche that wasn't being really scratched.
Scratched.
Yeah, yeah. So we knew we were onto something pretty good, you know, and the fact that Garth was on there, and we had a really good marketing campaign for it. So, but obviously back then, you know, early '90s,
it was very different.
Yeah, it's a different place, different world. This convention was a completely different place. We never could have dreamed that we'd be having video games, you know, not even to mention of this quality, done of our works. So it's been awesome.
As far as the relationship between Jackie and the Darkness goes, that was kind of a unique, kind of very odd buddy cop movie, let's say.
Yeah.
You know, so talk to us about how you developed that and how that even came out, because it's one thing to make these kinds of characters. But, I mean, this is essentially kind of a power, kind of a way to interact with the world. That was an ongoing dialogue that was very interesting and hadn't seen too often, at least not in people that weren't crazy, right?
Well, I mean, we're all kind of crazy, right? And that's one of the things that I thought was really important with the Darkness, as opposed to Superman. Superman is not crazy. You know, he's Superman again. You know, that's you can't be anything but super, right? And man, but we're all kind of people that have issues, obviously, some more than others.
Yeah.
But you know, Jackie, one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie of all time, is Forbidden Planet. How many of you guys have seen that?
Yes.
Right? And the great conceit and the core of that movie is the monsters from the id, which is brilliant. And I always thought it'd be kind of cool because we all have this dark side of us, and it's, you know, half, if not more, than part of a lot of us. Jackie, like all of us, has this, but like monsters from the id, his physically manifests. You know, and I thought, wow, how great would it be to have something terrifying that all of us try to hide? Maybe not Mike. I've seen your videos, dude. Yeah, speaking of issues, but yeah. So how cool would it be to have that inner voice externalized? You know, where Jackie is constantly having to be a hero against himself.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I thought was unique about Jackie, as opposed to other characters. He literally, his worst enemy and his greatest ally is himself. You know, I mean, that's unlimited as far as what you can do with that.
Yeah. I think the other thing is key to Jackie is, in essence, he has the power of creation, but it has its limitations. And in a weird way, he's kind of he's got this ultimate power, and he's kind of this bad, flawed guy who was raised in all these crazy circumstances, and he becomes the gatekeeper to this ultimate evil sort of chaotic power, and it's the only thing he's actually really afraid of, you know, and so he has to keep that bottled in. And in a way, I think his journey, and it's certainly sort of your classic anti-hero, but his journey kind of deals with the fact that he has to almost become the hero in a way, in an odd sort of sense, and becomes this heroic figure because he in essence sacrifices his humanity to maintain the darkness inside of him and keep it from spilling out over to the rest of the world. So,
So clearly, kind of a nuanced, complicated character. Not necessarily totally perfect for a lunchbox, and yet you guys have managed to...
Depends what you're eating.
yeah, my kids like it. I got a 10-year-old kid, he digs it.
I don't want to see the thermos in the lunchbox. But you know, what about the darkness made it a really good fit for all the places you've taken it? And where could it go? Hint, hint.
Well, I think we're announcing that at the end of the panel, my friend.
It's called foreshadowing.
The interesting thing about the darkness is, you know, just a couple things. I mean, we've sold the darkness into 21 languages, 55 countries around the world. It's sold over 300 million books worldwide. There's well over 150 individual books, about 15 to 20 graphic novels. I haven't actually done a recent count. Spawned multiple action figures and statues and various. It's just an interesting character, and I think the key is, you know, I mean, when I first started working with Mark, the two things he told me early on is we don't do something if it's not cool, and people need to want to be these guys. You know, the classic thing for us was always, if you got a guy, you need to have a manly man. You need a guy who guys want to be and girls want to fuck.
Jesus, the kids.
There's a thing right there.
I already looked around and didn't see any children, so. Oh, sorry, dude in the red hat.
It says right here, do not say
warning.
fuck.
Please be aware that many members of the audience may be under 18 years of age. Sorry.
And they can't watch the video anyway, right?
Well,
Next question.
moving along. Where was I? All right, so
Hey, you're the one that told me that logic, so that's your fault.
I didn't say that.
Oh, yeah, whatever. Go ahead.
we're gonna pretend it didn't
Yeah,
happen, and for those taping, we'll edit. This never happened.
Remember, it's for the kids. That's why.
There
we're
you go.
here.
Yeah, for the kids.
So we've seen the darkness evolve quite a bit
It says
already.
right- You're right.
And do you guys have your aspirations set on any other mediums, any other ways to kind of like bring this to folks? Plushies.
I think we tend to do licensing based on, honestly, it's the nice thing about having a company that's small where you've got a couple guys like Mark and myself who really make all the decisions, because we don't do necessarily things that are stupid or...
Okay, somebody wins this one.
Yeah, yeah.
It's slightly used.
Hey, that was
Quality is job
Sheldon,
one.
not us, okay? But shit, what was I saying?
It's more valuable now.
Is that how it goes?
Hey, yours is worse than mine. Okay, 18 and under.
There's something wrong. Now. Okay, this is me now.
It's more valuable now. It's really unique now.
Okay, next.
Sorry.
I hope you handle the game better than this.
Sorry. No, you know, let me just talk about the game from our point of view. You know, one of the things we were very happy with, I mean, the big fear for everyone when you have these properties and you take them out into these other mediums is that it's going to suck, you know, and at some point you let a little bit of go. How many of you have seen like a video game, like a comic book based video game or a movie that sucked? Okay,
We
all of
review
us,
them
right?
every week, just about.
Yeah, you know, it happens all the time, and you know, I have to tell you, there have been maybe 3 or 4 comic book-based video games that, to me, I actually wanted to play, and I'm an avid gamer. I played Warcraft for 5 years and all kinds of crazy shit, but when we got our hands on the first Darkness game, it was cool. I mean, I remember I sat down in my office and played the game straight through in like 10 hours, and I don't do that with any console game, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And I think these guys have done such a phenomenal job, first with Starbreeze and now with Digital Extremes. I mean, they've done, it's almost, you know, it's like it makes you a little kid when you get these things and you get to play them because it's just so cool.
Now, the question there that I have is, a lot of the video games that come out of comics don't always get kind of the TLC that you guys put into it. Because lots of times you sign it, you let somebody else do it, and maybe you rubber stamp it. But at that point, it's too late. But I don't necessarily think you guys are kind of rubber stamp people. You seem to be a little bit more involved. So talk to us about why that was important to you and kind of how up in everybody's face you got to make sure it was perfect.
Well, I think up in your face is probably the wrong way to put it. I think the key is when you do anything is partner with the right people.
There you go.
And, I think when we first met with, Christoph Hartmann and some of the people over at 2K, they had a clear vision for this. And when Starbreeze came in and we started working with them, we knew that it was going to be a great game. And Digital Extremes, I think the second game has had 3 years of extra, tech and all that stuff. The second game is so much better than the first game. I mean, I love the first game. But I always joked with the Starbreeze guys because they're from Sweden, and you go over there and they're literally in one of those places where there's 30 days a night, like it's the sun goes down, doesn't come up for 3 weeks, and they have UV stuff. And what better guys to take our first stab at, the darkness video game. So.
Now, were you surprised at how well received it was? Obviously, there were comic fans that were going to pick it up regardless, but it was a really good game, and it tended to find an audience even beyond core people that knew the darkness. It actually might have gotten the darkness more fans.
Yeah. No, we knew it was going to be good.
Yeah, like Matt said, we just had to play it. And actually, from when we saw the pre-production stuff, the design work that they were doing, we were going, this is going to be effing badass. And when we first started seeing the early builds, we just got more and more excited. And that was the early days of the next-gen games. And literally what we were looking at, people just hadn't seen before. And the fact that it was so story and character-driven, again, was something that hadn't been seen before, and that immersive. And even today, years later, people still talk about that moment.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
It's so brutal, and just it made you feel so much for the character. That we're really proud of that, and these guys have taken up that mantle. And in fact, when Sheldon says the stuff about the game, I just want to say that talking to them, it's been like really an honor and a lot of fun because they're fans of what we're fans of as comic book people. These are guys who read The Darkness, and The Darkness, this new game looks like a comic book that's moving and that you're playing, which I thought was a brilliant choice, because it really stands out from every other game out there. And the most important thing is that they wanted to keep the narrative aspects of The Darkness.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was, when I look back at Darkness 1, the moments that grabbed me were sitting on the couch with Jenny, and kind of like as a player, you're sitting there and you're letting it breathe. You're letting it, you build a connection with her so that when she dies, then you feel something. You feel something that you didn't feel kind of in other games before The Darkness. So for us, like our challenge was we wanted, obviously we have a new story, and like I said, it's Paul, so it's great. It's the same writer, so we kind of have those same hooks. But was to give the player that same experience. We want you to build up emotional connections in this game. We think that that's kind of signature to what The Darkness is.
Yeah.
And so that type of storytelling, that type of emotional storytelling, I mean, it's got this great balance because you've got this character with these demon arms, and you can rip things apart, and you can kind of have that kind of anger fantasy fulfillment, but we also have that ability to have that fantasy fulfillment of kind of the rest of your life to give you those emotional downbeats, so that when the action comes up, it kicks up so high.
Yeah, and I not that I'm just trying to give these guys continued praise because they're in the room, but 2K is not a company that puts out plug and play pieces of shit to spawn and to get off some marketing window of some movie release. That's not what they do. And I think you got an A-list developer with Digital Extremes, you got an A-list writer with Paul Jenkins, you got an A-list character created by Mark Silvestri, and
A-list voice talent.
A-list voice talent by
for sure.
I did want to go. I want to hit that for a second because as cool as everything was, it could have completely fallen apart if The Darkness had been kind of like nailed wrong, right? So, talk to us about the first time you remember hearing, or just tell us how Mike got involved and the first time you heard him do his thing.
Well, I can't take any credit for getting Mike involved. That was all Starbreeze and 2K. You'll have to tell that story. The Swedes, because all about the Swedes. Yep. But the first time I heard the voice, I went, what? This is like the coolest thing I've ever heard. And then I heard more about how you went about doing it. And it was, again, it was like one of those things where kind of Matt and I would look at each other and just go, you know what, there's magic happening here.
Yeah.
You know, because number one, it could fall off the rails at any moment.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there's a picture of Mike. That's awesome.
Did you go over to Sweden to do that, or did you do that here?
No, did it here.
Did it here?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Talk to us about the voice, because I can't imagine it's like you can do that for long periods of time, or if you do, there's buckets of lozenges and lots of water.
Lots of Red Bull.
Yeah. So where'd you find the voice? How aware of the darkness were you? And did you have an idea of what you wanted to do, or did you just kind of
particularly? No, I kind of came up with it sort of on the fly, really. But I thought about it because I'm not really a voice actor per se, so I thought of it more as like a musical. I thought about it as a piece of music, and that I had to sort of inhabit this character and stick with it the whole time. And yeah, I sort of channeled, you know, I don't know.
So
a teenage death metal vocal styling, so to speak.
Yeah, so when you were putting together that character, what inspirations, what touch points did you feel like you had to hit? Like you said, teenage death metal.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I haven't done a lot of voice work, but each you know, character that I've done, I've tried to sort of channel somebody or something.
Yeah.
Like I did one, I was a main character in sort of a military type of game, and I thought to myself, Bionic Commando. Bravo.
Oh. Bing, bing, bing.
But in order to kind of do that and do it convincingly, I had to see a picture in my mind first, and so I thought of Henry Rollins. That's so.
That
The
cover.
darkness, it was a little more complicated.
I can see Henry Rollins there too.
Yeah.
You had plenty of
It
pictures.
still freaks me out when I hear it, to
No.
be honest with you. Yeah, because it's so spot on and perfect. And the fact that you just came up with that on the fly really worries me.
It took some
I recorded I took one of the things that you did and actually made it. It's the ringtone for my ex-wife when she calls me.
That's good.
It's good. So thank you for that.
So that would be the ringtone.
That's true, by the way.
Inject yourself! Give me its power!
Do we want to show some video?
That's you.
You guys want to see some video? Do we have it ready?
Out!
You guys want to see some video from the game?
Back to the...
Can we get the lights?
Lights.
Yeah, this is
the
the Darkness 2.
panel. Come on.
The Darkwing's gonna go crazy.
He's going to break it, man.
Jackie Estacado. In the flesh. You've been keeping something that was once lost. Something that doesn't belong to you. Now you have to choose to give it back. The darkness made you watch your girlfriend's murder. Your first meaningful act as its host was one of submission. If they take me, you lose Jenny. I want the darkness. Jenny's dead. Focus. Face it, Jackie. You can't control the darkness, and you never could. I'm stronger than you think.
Nice.
All right, so fill us in about that. Tell us where this picks up. It's obviously a sequel. So where are we in the story?
Yeah, we're 2 years after the events of the first game. So Jackie's kind of, I mean, he's a little bit moved on. I guess he's now become the Don of the Estacado crime family. So they went from being the Franchettis like they were in the first game, and now he's taken over. He's the Don. So now they're the Estacado crime family. And so kind of what we allude to a little bit in some of the trailers that we've shown is that there's someone who knows about the darkness and wants to take the darkness from Jackie. So the game's story kind of revolves around, obviously, you know, Jenny's still part of it, and I don't want to give away too much about the story, but there's someone that wants to take the darkness from Jackie, and kind of this is the fight for Jackie to keep the darkness, you know, as much as he struggles against it at the same time.
Now, for this game, obviously new developer. So talk to us about what you liked about the first game, what you wanted to keep, but what you wanted to do to kind of make this one bigger and badder.
Yeah, I mean, we took the whole game and we just, you know, we played it a ton. And the thing that I guess we wanted to hold on the tightest to was the narrative. We felt like the thing that made The Darkness this great game was this really compelling narrative that had, you know, like I was saying earlier, actually had emotional hits in the game. And so we started off with that, and we sat down with Paul Jenkins, and we just kind of, we thought story first. That was like kind of the top pillar, was in service of story for this game. We thought, how are we going to make this game still have all those hooks? So that was one kind of bucket. And then the other bucket was, let's look at the combat. I mean, this is a first-person shooter. We liked the first game, but we felt like we could kind of take the shooting up to the next level. You know, you have these two demon heads, and what could you do with them? You know, you want to be able to use them at all times. You don't want it just to be modal and kind of have to always be kind of in a slow motion kind of picking what you're doing. Oh, am I going to do this now? Am I going to do this now? I'd love to just be able to do everything at the same time. So we came up with what we're calling quad wielding. And quad wielding basically means using guns, demon heads at the same time. So you have a grabbing demon head, we call him Grabby. We have a slashing one, we call him Slashy. So you want to be able to use kind of Grabby and Slashy all the time.
Did you come up with that?
I'm not sure how that came
Oh,
up.
okay.
Yeah, but
Great.
that's definitely how we refer to them. Yeah, super technical names for these guys, Grabby and Slashy.
And this is Gunny, and this is
Yeah,
Gunner.
for sure, exactly. It's like
And
killing
Bitey
it.
and Shooty.
But you know, we wanted to create these scenarios where the player could do things. You know, you're fighting down a New York street, and you know, you're fighting next to a cop car. Great, grab the door off the car and use that as a shield, and kind of shoot through the shield door. You know, at the bad guys. Throw the car door and cut guys in half. And if someone gets too close, then use the slashing one and cut a guy in half with that as well. So we really wanted this kind of dynamic combat system, and then on top of that, you layer in powers, and you know, it's a pretty dynamic experience.
In terms of the look, I think there's always that, it's almost like the easy fallback. Hey, we'll make a comic game and we'll cell shade it. Darkness never kind of went that route, but you are using a different kind of art style for this game than the first. So you would talk to us how you decided on that and what you describe it as.
Yeah, I mean, you were asking kind of how these guys kind of affected the game. And I think the biggest contribution, even kind of away from talking to us about it, was just looking at the art. I mean, we thought, hey, we're going to ground zero here. We're going to do the sequel, and we're going to do it right from the ground up. And we kept flipping through all these comic books. I mean, you know, we went through our own collections. My own collection, as I've said before, is only missing Darkness 1, because I think I sold it to make rent in university. But yeah, hopefully you can give it to me. I keep mentioning it so that you'll give me a 1
Yeah,
eventually.
so you can treat it like this?
Yeah.
Nice.
So, touche. So we, you know, we were just piling through the comic books, and we thought, you know, this is so beautiful. I mean, there's so many pops of color, and kind of the shooters that we were looking at as contemporaries were really monochromatic, and they didn't have that feel. We were so inspired by the big splashes of color. Obviously, most of it was red and a little bit of black here and there. But we were inspired by the colors and that palette, and we wanted to bring that to a video game. So we called the style graphic noir, and really what we're trying to do is have that high contrast feel of the books and the big pops of color like the books as well.
Yeah. And talk about the how you guys got those textures in there, because that's amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you make a choice like that and you think, oh great, you know, we'll just send it over to the programmers and guys make the checkbox that says graphic noir, and we're all set, and that's how it'll render. And we tried that, it didn't work, and we realized that we'd actually have to kind of do it the hard way, which is get a team of artists, and every single texture that you see in the game has been hand painted so it looks like a graphic novel.
Yeah, that's pretty badass.
Now, for the look, the game's being developed now, so you guys are putting that together. But Mike, you've already done some recording for it, so what do you actually have to work with when you got to do your thing? It's a lot of imagination, right?
A lot. It's a lot of guesswork, to be honest. I saw, you know, a few stills basically of the game. I think I saw a couple of motion scenes as well. But other than that, it's yeah, like you say, a lot of imagination. But these guys were great. I mean, they really made me see it, and it was really fast, really efficient. And if I screwed up, they'd tell me.
Now
Which is really key, you know.
Now are you changing up the voice a little bit for this one, or you kind of sticking the same?
It's pretty much in the same ballpark.
Okay.
Yeah. I had to go back and actually listen to what I'd done on the first one to kind of remember who this creature was.
It's you.
Yeah, and before we had Mike recording, it was pretty hilarious because we had members of the dev team trying to do Jackie's voice. So Jackie,
It helped, though. It actually-
the Darkness Forever had this like Cookie Monster, like you know, it's me being a Cookie Monster into a voice, and then all of a sudden we kind of dropped you in there, and it's pretty awesome. Just the game shoots up. So yeah,
Do it. Do the Cookie Monster.
no. They'll send everyone away. They'll be like,
try
that's what
it.
that's what they were working with. This game's gonna suck.
Here, go for it. I'll be the.
You'll do the dark thing.
There you go.
There you go. You
I
put,
want your cookies. Give me your cookies.
you put some auto-tune on that, it's fine.
Next.
That's all I need. I need to be auto-tuned.
Moving on.
And then, Mike, because it's not the most, it doesn't seem like that's going to just roll off the tongue. Like, how long can you do it before you're kind of burnt? Like, do you do this in marathon 8-hour sessions?
I
or?
mean, yeah.
You do?
It's kind of, I've been screaming and abusing my vocal cords, since I was a teenager. So it's like a muscle. It's like anything else.
You're
So,
training for this your whole life.
I guess. Yeah.
That's the quote.
Yelling at my dog.
Patton's been
Yelling
training
at
for darkness his whole life.
So in a way, yeah, it was just an extension of what I, do all the time.
Nice. So, probably don't want to call you up on the phone then.
Hello.
Well, it's cool because hearing you say that, it makes perfect sense because this terrifying, twisted thing, vocally, it comes through very naturally.
It's,
It doesn't sound like somebody acting like the darkness.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Sorry for you, but it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to take a break every 20 minutes or so and gargle.
And so how's the process work? Because everybody's kind of spread out, right? So just geographic check, where is everybody in relation to the others? So you guys are where?
We're in Culver City.
Okay, and then Sheldon?
I'm in Canada.
You can't tell. And then Mike?
San Francisco?
All right, so we've got, how do these three locations come together to make a game? Like, what's a day like when you're developing? Because everybody's got to
It's
approve.
called the internet.
Get out, really?
I have something called an iPhone.
Nice. So what's a process like, basically?
Well, I would say on our end, development is usually up front. I
Yeah.
mean, most of our development is before these guys even really get going.
Uh-huh.
We're working with like a Paul Jenkins who's developing the story, working with 2K about what they're doing, and then pretty much, slide it to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, like, with us having, we had, with Paul kind of getting the blessing, I guess, from you guys, story-wise, that was what we really wanted. We wanted to make sure that what we were doing was going to be in line with what, everyone loved from Top Cow and everything that we liked as well. So basically we had Paul, who was in our studio all the time, working with us, helping us build the story. And then, we'd kick over our stuff to 2K, which I guess, they shared however needed to be fit.
And that was really, I think, key for us is that, Jenkins was obviously one of the long-term writers for The Darkness and wrote, I think, 25, 30 issues of the book. And we knew what we were getting. He wrote Darkness Pit, which is my favorite 4-issue Darkness thing ever. So I mean, we knew this guy already knew how to write the character and could do something with the game to make it sort of true to the core of the comic, and yet it worked because he had worked on some video games. Paul had worked on Twisted Metal Black and a few other things, so he kind of straddled both fields, and we knew he'd do a good job. So.
Now, the development process, it is everybody up here on the stage, but how much of what the folks out there, the folks that played the original game, posted on the internet, because it's a great tool for that, how much of the fan feedback got taken into account when you guys were approaching this game?
From our perspective, I guess we took everything under consideration. I mean, we went back. I mean, we had our own kind of initial feelings, and we literally did comb the forums. People say, "Oh, if I make a forum post, does anybody read that? Does any of the development team ever read that?" We read them all. I mean, we read literally everything people had to say about Darkness 1, and that's how we kind of came with our kind of attack plan for how we were going to do the game. We wanted to basically improve all the things that people didn't like and keep the stuff that people thought was gold.
Now, as far as what people can expect, is there maybe some fan feedback that you guys incorporated that you want to tell folks? Anything in particular that stands out?
Ooh, that's interesting. I guess one of the things that the biggest fan feedback was more on something that we're keeping, but I guess that's the part that I guess I keep saying it because for us it is so important, is just that emotional storytelling. The moment with Jenny on the couch, the moment where Jenny gets shot, like if that's not, if you don't have those moments in Darkness 2, then for the fans it's not Darkness 2.
Yeah.
So those are the types of things where even though you saw a little bit where an example I guess of making sure that we kind of took the story and then still was able to kind of amp it was the scene you saw just in the trailer there where Jackie's nailed to a cross. Well, the way Jenkins wrote it was that Jackie is powerless against this enemy right now. And then we were able to kind of go and say, okay, what's the way that kind of fits in the Darkness lore that will work? That wasn't what's on the page. What's on the page is Jackie's trapped. What actually came out was Jackie was crucified. And that came honestly from looking at some of the stuff, the feedback from fans, how in Darkness 1, how much they loved seeing Jackie at that point of weakness. So we tried to, we always were trying to incorporate that stuff into the game.
Now, you're talking about a lot of red in the imagery and whatnot. So is there a bar that you guys are aiming for in terms of what's too much, what's not too much?
There's no bar.
I was going to say, because I've seen some of the game already at E3 and whatnot, and doesn't seem like there's a bar, but I'm just wondering, do you guys have guidelines of like, this is the right way to rip off somebody's head?
I think the best was we were doing a call with the ratings board, the ESRB, and we're kind of like going through their checklist of all the things a game can have to get a mature rating, and it was just like check, 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 and then we went through the whole thing, and I kind of put up my hand and I was like, okay, so we have a situation where the Darkling, when a guy's dead, he takes a pee on him. That doesn't seem to be covered in your list. What does that mean? And that sent the lawyers, whatever. But I mean, there is obviously there's a limit of taste. But with the Darkness, I think you have these two amazing demon heads. You have this Darkling running around. You can do anything you want, and we want to feed into it.
I'm going to reenact the scene for you. Yeah, it's a highlight for me.
Well, I gotta tell you, I really like the fatalities or whatever you want to call them. I thought those were pretty badass in the second game, and I don't know if you've had a chance to play the demo, but they have it at the 2K/Top Cow booth. There's 8 playable kiosks, and there's some really amazing fatalities, like the wishbone, where you grab a guy by his legs and rip him in half like a wishbone. And there's the python through the chest, right? So like from the Alien movie. And so
Daisy Pop.
Yeah, Daisy Pop off.
Yeah, it's just it's fun. Good fun.
Some fun.
Yeah.
No,
Good
it's
fun.
really the cool thing is, and we've talked about this before, is that it's the violence is over the top and it's pretty cathartic, to be honest with you. But it's also very much in context with the Darkness. That maybe a screenshot would look gratuitous, but when you play the game, it's like it really kind of fits, and especially with the graphic noir that these guys have done, the hand painted textures and all that, it's not gruesome as much as it is entertaining.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. And I think the level of violence that we're going to is just like we were saying with the art style. We're inspired by the books. So I mean, I encourage everyone to pick up back issues of Darkness and check out the level of gore and violence that are there. And we're not doing anything that
Pass the buck.
Yeah.
Nice. Pass the buck.
It's all you guys.
Pass
Yeah.
the buck.
Hi, Mark. Are you surprised that these guys are running with it as far as they are? Obviously, there's a lot of source material for violence and gore in the books, but I mean, they're getting kind of creative. You pleasantly surprised? A little disturbed?
Matt and I joked about the first one. It's like our crowning achievement was that it was banned. Where was it banned?
It was banned in Singapore.
It was banned in Singapore. It's like,
Which was
yes!
awesome.
It was like, sweet. We're hoping for
champagne,
I remember when at the time the marketing guy from 2K called me and said, "Hey, we got banned in Singapore." I'm like, "Is that bad?" He's like, "No, that's great. We're on 156 newspaper covers around the world." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, we're hoping to be banned everywhere except for Southern California. So,
Nice.
but no, I mean it's I've played portions of the game and I've seen a lot of the game, and and everyone I've watched play this game, and we can play it at the
it's here, yeah.
You can play it at Top Cow booth, by the way.
Yeah.
Just come on by the booth. You can play the game. Everyone I've ever seen play the game has this look on their face. They have just this maniacal laughter.
Yeah.
And it's not because what they're seeing is like goofy or anything. It's just so much fun. The quad wielding mechanic, which again, if you're talking about going on through the threads and all that stuff and seeing what people wanted. One of the things that I noticed was that at the end of Darkness 1, when Jackie goes completely crazy, but the game is out of your control, and you've got the tentacles and the guns and all this stuff happening at once, people said, I want to play that. I want to play that part of the game. And that's what they did with the quad wielding. And look, I've got these giant thumbs, that are not made for controllers, and yet I was able to wield the tentacles and the guns and do some damage. I was having so much fun, I forgot I'm not supposed to die. No, we're more than pleased with what they've done. More than pleased.
All right, now the video game, which is coming out early next year, so almost Valentine's Day.
Hey, there you go.
That's just
Matt, are you here? We got a marketing hook.
Yeah, Eating Hearts.
Ladies, buy your guy at a Darkness game.
So it's coming out now. That basically means the Darkness machine is moving on, and you guys are trying new things. What other things might you be doing with the Darkness? Maybe.
Well, here's we are proud at Comic-Con here at the 2K Darkness panel to announce that we've engaged the Mandeville Films Company on the Walt Disney lot to do a live-action feature film version. They are most well known for, they did The Fighter, that movie with Christian Bale and Mark Wahlberg. Academy Award-winning production team, and they've done a number of really great productions over the years. We've had several really good years with them. We've done 2 years ago at Comic-Con, we announced a project called Alibi that we were doing with them based on a comic that some loser, I wrote that, right? Yeah. That we did there with the film version of that. And then last year, Mark had a comic book called Crosshair that he did with Jeff Katz, and we announced that. And both of those projects we sold to Summit Films, which are both still actively going there. And so we started talking to them about what to do. And so we're going to go full bore with a live-action feature film version of The Darkness, which we'll keep announced. But that's, it's good stuff. And
it's not going to be a small, watered-down version of The Darkness. We're looking at a major motion picture here.
No, it's definitely, we're not looking for the, $10 million shitty version. We just wouldn't do that.
Yeah, not going to happen.
And by the way, I did mention that if, they should reach out to you, Mike, if they need a voice for The Darkness for the film. I did say that, actually. I literally told them that the other day. I said, he'd be great. He is the voice of The Darkness.
And Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber. Yeah. Justin Bieber. I mean, I didn't mean to throw that out, but...
I do just want to make
Justin,
sure.
come on up. Hey, turn around. You don't get one of these.
Well, we have...
But just so everybody here doesn't freak out, you guys are going to have a lot of say in it, so we won't wind up with Justin Bieber or, sorry, any tweens as, Jackie, right?
No, I mean, I think Mark and I approach filmmaking and video games with sort of two basic premises. We wanted to have a sort of that wish fulfillment and be at least somewhat faithful to the core material. You can't make it completely faithful because different genres and different mediums warrant different things. But secondarily, and it's one of the first things that Mark ever said to me, is we're not doing it if it sucks.
Okay.
It's just not worth the money, you know?
You don't want to boot your franchise out the door and never hear from it again, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
The same thing, if the first game were bad, Darkness, there would be no opportunity for Digital Extremes to make it even more badass. Same thing with anything that we do.
Yep.
It's like, I don't know if we're going to see another Green Lantern movie, are we?
Oh.
I don't know about that, but so we're going to make sure that the Darkness just it kicks ass. In anything that we do with it, features, animation, whatever we do with it, it's just going to kick ass.
All right.
Otherwise, we don't do it.
Well, we got 5 minutes left.
Just about. So you know what that means.
Q&A. Hey, do you want to bring the toys up? Here, I'll come help.
So we're going to do QA. You will get mint condition statues.
Yeah.
And if anybody's got crazy glue, this one can be mint condition too. All right, so you go ahead, give a shout.
One is during the process of the development of the game, I know that you developed practically a script, a story, which is the game is based on. but through the development process, usually you go back and forth and says, okay, this is right or wrong, and you put all the roles. Says, okay, this is the tricky part. This is where you need to jump and speed and explode and all those. How goes in back and forth between the development team and the story development? I know that you said that the story writer.
Is that all right? What do you think?
That's kind of like how you manage to get it. The influence on the thought that you consider care of do something different that because it's easy to take that story and say do a game, then the game starts. Even if it's completely similar to the story that you have to end.
It's a unique skill.
Yeah.
It's a unique skill.
Yeah, it's
Or if you don't want to even make it too easy or too hard.
Is there a question in there somewhere?
Well, I think he answered the question.
Yeah, I mean, it was very collaborative. We would build. Obviously, I mean, a game takes a long time to make. It takes a lot of people. There's hundreds of people that are working on the game, and so from that perspective, what you have to do is you kind of have to get an outline down early so that you know what the main path of the game is going to be, and then in the middle of that you can iterate on the story, and that's kind of what we did. We said, okay, this doesn't work, this isn't the emotional beat. I mean, pacing is so important in games, and so this isn't working for a pacing moment, we need to bring it down more, so let's rewrite this scene. So I mean, it was really organic. Luckily we have talented people who are able to adapt to that. So
Second question is for a woman. Is there a woman with a question?
All right, somebody come up here so we can hear you, although I have like 5 feet of mic. Sorry. Please. There you go.
Hello. One question I had, I just ran in here from another panel, so I'm a little out of breath. I loved the World War I hellish world that Jackie goes into in the first game. And I was just wondering if we could expect anything like that in the second game.
yeah, I mean, we like that too. And with Jackie, it's grounded. You're in New York, and a lot of the stuff we've shown has been in New York.
Yeah.
But obviously, you've got little guys like the Darkling running around. You've got the demon heads on either side of you. So that leaves the door wide open for fantastical locations. And I can't tell you what they are yet, but I can tell you they'll be there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, by the way, don't say that you just came into the panel and you weren't here the whole time. That automatically disqualified you for a toy.
Burn.
Oh.
All right.
Hi, I just noticed that while I was looking at the screenshots that were being shown, I noticed that one of the enemies shown on screen had definite darkness stuff on him. Does that mean that, is there going to be like darkness wielding enemies in the second game or something?
Interesting. Yeah, that's a great question.
That's a great question.
That's a
and you
great
win.
idea.
Yeah.
Wait, that's the beaver guy. He turned around. Oh, that
Yeah,
sucks.
absolutely. I mean, we have shown a little bit of that. We have an enemy in the game called the Brotherhood. And for anybody who's read the comics, they know kind of a little bit of the background of the Brotherhood, and we've kind of put our own little spin on them. But they know how the darkness works. They want to take the darkness from Jackie, and they have they've found ways of harnessing the darkness in the past. So you are going to face enemies in the game that actually bring kind of their form of the darkness to fight.
You're not fighting just mooks this time around.
Yeah.
Let's get somebody to run up here. You, sir, in the blazer.
All right, a blazer automatically disqualifies you. You do not.
What? Come on. Damn it. All right, guys. Thanks for the panel. I wanted to ask, it's been a while since the last game. Really good. I was like, why isn't there another one? Then it's coming out. So the question is, why did you take such a long time to decide to come back into this?
Yeah, sure.
Right? And also, to add to that, I guess it's really hard to then, it's not a reboot, right? So it's hard to keep the fans engaged again because it is kind of a reboot because you've lost some of the audience base. So how do you keep it relevant to the new generation? Because there's going to be new people now, and yet original to what it was before.
I think you guys service that.
Yeah. I mean, we think it's really important to bring people in. So the beginning of the game, we really work on making sure, if you haven't played Darkness 1, and shame on those of you who haven't, but if you haven't played it, we're going to bring you in. We're going to bring you up to speed really quick, and so you understand what the world is. I guess the first part of your question was in terms of why did it take so long, and I think for us we just kind of we started as soon as we had the opportunity to. So obviously it's a change of developers, but as soon as 2K came to us with it, we were huge fans of the game, and like I said, I was a fan since I've been a kid. So as soon as we had the opportunity, we started right in on it. So we've been working on it for 3 years now, and we can't wait for people to see it.
I can answer that with one word. It's called quality. You know, I mean, you want an 8-month cycle, plug-and-play piece of shit movie-based game, or you want a good game?
I feel that from what you guys are saying. Thank you.
All right.
And go Canada,
Randall,
go.
does he get a toy here?
Yeah, he gets a toy.
Thank you.
Let's go on.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
All right, you sir in the ponytail, I think. Come on up.
Also disqualified. Damn.
Cannot have bigger hair than Mark.
That's all right. I can do it.
And we have 2 more questions. Sorry.
Well, first, Love the Darkness, stumbled across it by accident, read Origins, and, well, honestly, here on work. So, are there going to be a collector edition, or would you just point to the comic? And, you know, like, which one of those would be most valuable?
Collector's edition.
Collector's edition?
I actually don't know the answer to that. Is Matt, is there a collector's edition version, or is it just one game?
Can we talk about the
Do we know?
collector's? Can we talk about the amazing collector's edition, marketing people?
You know what? We're going to decline to answer that for secret 2K reasons, but you win anyway here.
Secret, ultra secret.
You, sir.
Wow, we only have one left?
No, we got 2 left.
So my question's for all 4 of you. If you were to have the darkness in you, how would it reveal itself?
Well, let me just take a little whiz here.
Keep it classy.
Well, the voice of the darkness. How it, I
You
think
start.
We already saw that, huh?
Sheesh. I think I already did it. I think it already came out in the game. Nothing left.
Yeah, Sheldon, what would you do?
Yeah.
Besides
The
being your
darkness-
badass self.
The darkness, like, could I channel that and, like, make better games? Could he help me? No. Wow. I like Mark said, I guess we all have a little bit of darkness inside of us, right?
Last one.
So, you know, I have road rage. Nighttime road rage. I guess that's how I'd use it.
Yeah, and again, to make it just real quick, I think that's a question for everybody, really, and that's kind of alluding back to what I said earlier. Is I want Jackie to be relatable, you know, and that horrible part of us that brings doubt, that brings insecurity, that brings envy, whatever that is that's negative in our lives, we kind of keep locked in. You know, that's what would come out. So
we have to hurry up and answer
I'm
2 very
bold.
quickly. You need to ask a question that can be answered in 1 word.
One word.
What's your question? Yeah, go. Fast. Yeah, 10 seconds.
Disqualified. We're going to have some other artifacts that's going to appear, like maybe a witchblade in the background somewhere?
No, you win. we got 2 more. You. It's an origin. Give him one. I'd give it to you, little kid, but you're under 18. We're not supposed to give you guys stuff.
Right there.
Anyone, Bueller?
Yeah, him.
I'm gonna let the blue guy pick, so you guys can beat him up.
The Smurf?
This is for the one that we broke.
Smart.
last one.
This is the one we
That would
broke.
be
Sorry.
Mr. Tattooed Dude.
Maybe. Okay, we're done.
Yes,
Thanks.
yes, there is.
Yes, there is.
Yes, there is.
All right.
Thank you.
You get the busted one. There you go. Oh, there you got it. There you go.
All right, so for those of you that you want to go out that way and get a free
Thanks,
comic book.
Yeah, make sure everybody
Thanks,
get your
everyone.
free comic, and thank you very much for
Yes,
coming.
thanks. Come down to the booth and play the game.